This is the art of Startup War. And my name is Brian McMahon, your host and sensei. Here is what we know. 98% of startups will fail every single day, and mostly due to reasons outside your control. At the Expert Dojo Startup Accelerator, we look to even up the playing field by sitting down with the greatest minds in startup investment right here in our studio in Silicon Beach, where we look to shine a light on your path to success. Now, our guests each week have invested millions of dollars into startups and are the most respected investors in the world. Now, they share all they know with you, the listener. So join us on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, starting off your week winning the war against startup failure. Okay, it's another week. You are back with Expert Dojo again. For the next 35 minutes, we are going to talk about nothing else other than investing. And how do you get investment for your startup? Again, this week, we are going to keep the focus even more in depth because we're going to bring it to crypto investing. We're going to look at ICOs, initial coin offerings, which many of our entrepreneurs are really focused on today. And we're bringing in some of the best investors in town, some of the top experts within that area to talk about it, and also not just about from an investment perspective on how do you get your ICO, how do you build your ICO, how do you get investors for your ICO, but also how do I actually create a successful project that, as my next guest James will explain to you, that keeps you out of jail. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Brian,
welcome,
it's awesome.
James.
Yeah,
we go back a long way.
Exactly.
We go back since I just opened the dojo and you came in and you were doing. Listen, you were a coder forever, and then you taught coding forever. Right. So it's no surprise that you've gone deep into the blockchain space.
Yeah, no, it's an entrepreneurial thing, and actually, just to touch on that, coding. You know, coding it's so powerful, and it's empowered me, just like you, as an entrepreneur through the years. When you have an idea, you want to start a business, you got an idea, to be able to throw a website up that looks believable and works properly and all that, it's a great way to sort of test the waters. And, without a lot of capital investment and all that, you just build a site, So Everybody out there, get yourself a hosting service, unlimited sites, and, start grabbing domains for $10 or whatever. And,
mate, entrepreneurship is great. I often say I don't really care about much in the world except for early stage entrepreneurship. I love early stage entrepreneurship. The crypto craze, the ICO, the initial coin offering craze has taken this to new heights, kind of for two reasons. And we were talking earlier on about like the awesomeness or not of doing podcasts. And for me, why I still love it so much is because there's still so much to learn within crypto and ICOs that it's almost like I get a free class for 35 minutes when I sit in here with you on exactly where this space is going and what type of companies are worth investing in it or not. Do you want to talk a little bit about your journey and how you got into the crypto space and what type of companies that you really like right now? And let's just talk about crypto and everything around it.
Well, great. I'd be happy to talk about that. I mean, my background as an entrepreneur and getting into the coding space, it was an idea, a plan that I needed to sort of. You always have to be on the cutting edge. You have to be in a position of authority, right? And so by operating the coding boot camp and Beach Coders down in El Segundo and having that whole birthplace of tech story, that it kind of positions myself as the owner that as somewhat of an authority, and then you start making all these connections in the tech space, which is really what it was. Because if you come in, I'm not in the tech space, then people don't really want to talk to you. They feel like there's no kinship there.
Yeah.
But because of that, I actually got approached by an attorney and actually a very, very seasoned individual and company in Beverly Hills that specializes in doing old school private, what they call a public offering or a direct public offering.
Yeah.
And he, again, this is a guy that was trying to get himself to the cutting edge. He says, you guys know what you're doing over there. And we're starting blockchain software solutions.
Right.
And so that happened at the same time with another friend of mine who was into trading and all of this. Ended up, it's kind of a funny story. He owed me some money.
Yeah.
And
by the way, every story in LA starts with he owed me some money.
He owed me some money, and I kind of knew, I had sort of written it off because but then I was like, hey, what's up with that? And I knew that he was doing some crypto stuff, and I just kind of joked with him. I'm like, hey, man, why don't you pay me in some of those cryptos if you don't have any cash, you know? And he actually parsed me over some Bitcoin. And then I was not really, now that I had some, I was like following. I'm like, what is this? And start to learn about it. And man, what a world of like discovering.
When was that?
That was like October, November 2017.
Wow.
I mean, I knew about it, obviously, but Bitcoin actually had dropped down in price because of the fork. Right? Even that. What's a fork, right?
We know now.
We know now. And so, the value was there. And, but regardless, it just got me into the consciousness in that space. And this individual with the direct offering, he said, we should add the blockchain training and the whole crypto training, legitimate blockchain training. And I was like, okay, yeah, we can do that. We can do that. And so that began that whole journey. And but then at the same time, this stuff is moving so fast. And all these people are doing these ICOs. So what's this initial coin offering? And then they're like, well, if I issue a coin and I publicly promote it, it's like, well, you're breaking securities laws because you're publicly offering securities. It's like, oh, no. It's not a coin. It's not a security.
It's a token.
It's a token, man. And it's like decrypted and it's decentralized and it's secret. And it's just like, well, and I told a story out here in the audience. There's a great place in it's a Hollywood icon, right? Is Sunset. What do you call it? The Rainbow Bar and Grill.
Right.
Rainbow Bar and Grill. Rock and Roll Rainbow Bar and Grill. For years, you'd go there. It doesn't matter if you were a regular, whatever. You'd have a little line, and the guy would say, "Here's 2 cards. It's $5 each, or whatever, and you can buy drinks and food in there." But they would sell you these cards, these coupons, before you got in. Now maybe you would have a couple of drinks. You'd buy some more cards. You'd have like 4 or 5 of these cards, or you'd give them to a girl. So I don't know. And you'd go home and you'd have these cards. Well, guess what? You can't spend those cards anywhere else. They're not redeemable for cash. They're only good for the money in that space. That's kind of what a token is. Is that you're saying, okay, I've got this coupon for goods and services from that company only, and I can't redeem them anywhere else. I can't take my Vaughn's coupon and go to a Target and try and buy something with it, right? It doesn't work. So that's kind of a great way to look at the tokens, is that they're like coupons. And that's actually a financial term too, is a coupon, redeemable, redemption. The challenge though is, see, with the Rainbow, it's already there. They're already making pizzas and selling drinks. I can go there anytime and redeem my coupons.
And it's an encouragement to go back to an establishment that you already love, just to get
right and keep you coming back. And that's the marketing side of it. But on the value and legal side of it. Now, what if I was standing on the corner of Sunset and something, and I'm saying, hey, I got these coupons for this restaurant we're gonna make, and it's going to be here, and it's going to be great, and you'll be able to buy a steak or whatever for $10, and we're going to sell them for $20 when we open.
God bless you.
And you're going to, right? And it's like, well, that sounds awesome. And the picture looks really good, and the steak looks delicious, and the rendering of the building looks amazing. But then if it never gets built, then what? And
therein is the challenge of tokens. Plus also it's even additionally complicated because the money that you're given isn't even really for the goods and services. It kind of is. It's really just to give to the owners of the company so they can put it into a bank account, which will be allocated in the way that they feel fair. And there's some inverted commas, just virtual inverted commas that you see, right? So it could be like $30-50 million that you're giving to some random dude or dudess who are going to, you're going to get your steak, but I don't know what kind of, maybe, right? And it might, so it is very blurry. And this whole area between whether it's a security or whether it's a token, I always struggled with the token space. I always thought, okay, if it's just for the burger, it's okay. But it's not just for the burger. It's for whatever they decide to spend it on, including the holiday house, right?
It was a cloudy sort of loophole. And again, as I said on the panel today, the SEC is not somebody, it's not an entity you really want to have looking into you ever, because it's a real deal. And I
think you made a great point about that, actually, is like, you never want to have your company's name ever known by the SEC, just ever. And you definitely don't ever want to have your name like Joe Pesci in
in the Black Book, right? It's in the book, right? With Al Capone.
In Casino, right? It's like, once your name is there, you're screwed for life.
You kind of are.
Yeah.
You really are. And now you have to operate through proxies and everything if you want to do business. And you want to be able to, as an entrepreneur, I think that's the biggest punishment, would be that you can no longer do business.
Yeah,
I mean that's a punishment worse than anything else. Is that you're out of the game. You can no longer try. And but it's that whole thing about what we're finding as well is, you see, traditionally when raising money for a company that's getting started, you say, hey, I've got this great idea. We're doing this product or this service. And you're going to private investors saying, please believe in us, believe in our team, believe in our product. And they're like, I'll put some risk capital out. I'll put 50,000, 100,000, whatever, and kind of get you seed and then start in this whole process of getting things going. And what we never found in those environments is like, okay, great, this investor bought so many shares of our company at whatever price, and then we're selling them. We're selling them what they call a secondary market. That now I'm trading those shares. That never happened.
Yeah.
You use that money to do your thing and to be accountable to your investors.
Yeah.
The coin space is so decoupled from the personal experience, right? I don't know who these investors are. There's just people buying all these coins. There's trading volume. And those people, quite frankly, the ones that are coming in at the beginning, the investors, they don't really care so much about the company. They're coming in, they want to see the trading volume go up and then sell out.
Yeah.
So they're just riding a train to try and make money. That's it.
Yeah, so we have to be careful on both ends, by the way. Like, we have to be careful, A, as investors, for anybody coming as an investor, but B, as the entrepreneur, just getting the money is not actually necessarily a good thing. Because let's say you do raise $20 million, okay? We're going to talk in a second with James about what his suggestion is when raising money. We're going to assume that you're going to put it forward as a security rather than a token. And then we're going to talk about how do you approach investors, how do you get the right developers, how do you build the right team, and just what do you need to go forward. But kind of before we get to that, just this is your caveat, your caveat emptor, right? Just be careful that you're not getting in a bunch of investors who are putting $50 million into your business for a coin that's going to be worth $2 million in 3 months' time, because they've just dumped and pumped the hell out of it and they've got rid of all of the coin, and suddenly there's no one there and your community has been decimated before you've had a chance to use it. Is that a fair point?
It is a fair point, and let's face it. If that was your intention, and this panel just talked about that the litmus test in the legal space and SEC is about intention.
Yeah.
The difference between entrepreneurial spirit and best efforts venture and a scam is intention.
Yes.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Either you plan on making this happen, or you know darn well from the beginning that this is never going to happen and you're just taking money. So it starts with that intention. And raising $20 million, and that's the kind of things that happens with this, that even $10 million, I mean, it's actually an extraordinary amount of money.
Yes,
it really is. I mean,
do they just pull it all out? Is that what happens? Like, they raise the $50 million and then they just move it into their bank account?
That's, of the unscrupulous ones, that's exactly what happens, sure. And they have to find banks that are actually complicit with that. I mean, right now, most United States banks, if you try and dump all of your coins out into your bank account over $10,000, and not just, $10,000 and there's a little red flag to the IRS or anything. This is like, they won't do it. I've seen people have their bank accounts shut down for amounts that are nowhere near in those realms. Like, might be $10,000, $15,000 that they're withdrawing, and the bank says, hey, you know what? We don't want to do business with you. It appears that you're in the money services business, which you're not licensed for. So we're just going to shut your account down, and we're going to send you a cashier's check. Good luck. And now your bank account's shut down. So guys, be careful with that. If you have a business account, I know I have several accounts and stuff. I wouldn't want my bank to just say, hey, sorry, we're not doing business anymore. I mean, that would really, really be disruptive. Yeah. I'd have to scramble around even to just pay my bills and things.
Yeah. And by the way, and they're all also, so look, this podcast, we're starting it with just be careful, because a lot of people are really focused on the fact that this is a really easy business, and the business is actually about raising a bunch of money and having that money and putting it in a place. It's not. The business of doing business was always doing business. This is just an entirely different field, that if you have a product or service which is just in a very decentralized nature, or requires the blockchain in a very big way, or you're creating an incredible community which is very different, maybe even development based, but very different. It's almost like creating a second world for me. And it's not about, and if you have a product which is, you know what, I was just selling widgets yesterday and now I'm going to sell widgets for Bitcoin, or I'm going to do voting, which is because the voting is better because we can show it's transparent, and most of it's BS. So you want it to be very clearly it's a necessity. And that way, you do right by your investors rather than having a coin that will disappear in like 2 or 3 years' time. Okay.
That's right.
No more negativity from Brian for the next 5 or 10 minutes, which is like crazy good. What the hell do they do? So now we've worked out it's a cool business. It's right for blockchain. I'll give you a great example, right? We got one of our companies, a company called Segura, phenomenal company. They have a already used blockchain, already used distributed ledger over in Haiti. They take energy, which is excess energy in one place, and they transfer it over to another place that doesn't have any energy whatsoever, and then they put these energy boxes in. So beautiful thing. I think it's maybe one of the purest blockchain technologies that you could put in place, because all these folks have no power yesterday and then they have power today. So take a company like that where it costs a lot of money. You can justify taking $20 or $30 million. How do they start? A, on the development road, B, on the building team road to do this, and C, on the investment road. So all of those at the same time. Let's say it's a 6-month project to finalize their ICO.
Well, to get started on something like that, and that's first of all, what you just described, Brian, is a fantastic foundation. You have a real world problem that they're solving that makes its true real value. They're repurposing energy blocks, unused energy blocks or excess, and then repurposing to people that have none. And so they're actually maximizing all of their products, so to speak. There's no waste. It's great.
And it's 25-year payback because they pay a small amount every single year for 25 years. Yes, so I'm with you.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that's the foundation, is that the real business, the real thing. And now to raise money in order to facilitate this activity, because that's what the money's for, is to facilitate this activity of solving the problem. The traditional method would be to create a compliant offering, a private offering, and then try and reach investors of accredited level investors who they're basically wealthy people that can afford to take risks. And then have this compliant offer with a pre-existing relationship and all this. So you can't just blast it out and all that kind of thing.
You can't blast it out to everyone. So how does that regulation work? If there are certain types of offerings, you can. So if they're accredited investors, you can tell people maybe if we talk a bit about the different regulations.
I mean, what people have done traditionally, like let's say there's a film is trying to raise money, or an oil and gas exploration is trying to raise money. What they would do is they would purchase these investor lists, and then have people call them on the phone, old school. Hi, you're
Wolf of Wall Street stuff.
Wolf of Wall Street.
I'm joking.
Because to see the difference between, we should understand that distinction. Wolf of Wall Street was two perils. One was they were doing pink sheet offerings, which were like basically a lot of these coin offerings. The same thing. It's like a guy with an idea that's kind of, it may or may not be qualified. It might just be him in his basement and all that. So there's not a real thing there. And the second was they were not calling accredited investors who could afford to lose. They were calling the average blue-collar people who really, they so desperately wanted to get ahead and they wanted to get in the game, and these guys were expert salesmen and they just had such cunning and moxie that they'd be like, man, you better get in because, and then they were just – and they were taking their money. It was also
their intent, to your original point, their intent was wrong from the outset.
They had no concern whatsoever for the welfare of their investor.
Okay, cool.
And I think maybe that's what we should bring. So, I mean, the exact steps you've got to go back to the energy thing. You've got a great business model, and then if they put together a compliant coin offering, which is basically buying shares of their company, and the white paper, as it were. It's a terrible term.
Because a white paper has to be done for whenever you're going into a pre-sale or a sale of a token or of a security, then you have to do a white paper, right? Can you maybe explain what that is as well to bring it into context?
The white paper, I mean, when we talk about an offering or a private offering, which is really what it is you've got a declaration, an executive summary of what your business operation is. So it's like, hey, this is what we do. This is the problem we're solving. Here's our solution for it. Here's some detail. This is our This is our team. This is our use of proceeds, how we're going to spend the money. And of course, a lot of those things will change on the use of proceeds, but at least you got a plan here that we're going to spend this much. And an investor can look at that and go, well, geez, these guys, it's like 90% is going to salaries for this guy. And they're saying that they need to take all these company vacations in Hawaii and all this. And there's like 5% of it is for marketing. That might be a problem right there. Red flags, you want to really see how there's use of proceeds.
Yeah, I see it kind of like a business plan, but way shorter and more focused on the specifications of the development.
The
right?
white paper is.
The white paper,
That's right. And unfortunately, I mean, we don't have, it's so new, we don't have a lot of spec for how the white paper, all the touch points it needs to have.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is hyperbolic. It's a lot of fluff and hype. And, when you have a business model.
I'm going to use that word a lot today, hyperbolic. I love when I just get a really good word that I can bring home.
Yeah. The business model of repurposing energy on a grid, that's like you can get that. It's like, energy, totally. I get it. But when we talk about a lot of these startups that are like, we're making a ladder to the moon, we're making a laser thing that goes to the Mars, and it's like, and there's all this great talk out there with, in the tech community about having your 10x go 10x and 100x your goals and do it now and moonshot stuff. And that's great to kind of reach. It's good. You want to expand your thought, but there's no way to gauge what the value of these things are, or if it's doable or what. I mean, there's a startup, and we started to see, what was that one startup that raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and they had this blood test thing that is now coming out, and unfortunately that girl's coming under fire. There's another one here in LA that's doing wireless electricity, which I'm very, very interested in. But, we're starting to see stuff like that. It's real sexy, like wow, wireless electricity. Remember Tesla and all, and it's like you kind of there's like an ethos of this whole, like, I don't know, fantasy thing. Yeah. And there's a little bit of like, screw the man. That wavelength does come in there. So, one of the panelists on the panel today, we talked about boring businesses. Yeah. And traditionally, most money is made in very, very boring businesses. Yeah. Pipe fitting, supplies, it's boring. So it's like, hey, can we have a digital thing to handle title and transfer for property? That would be great. Yeah. Can we have a really reliable digital thing for your identity so that your social doesn't get taken and your identity theft? Yeah, those are like nuts and bolts, real world things. Energy, water distribution. Yeah. Food production, and using the blockchain to track the progression of food, where it comes from, and how that this produce was, because a lot of this stuff is very ambiguous right now, and they're representing the suppliers just represent, oh yeah, this is great, this is grade A, whatever it is, and do we really know? Yeah.
Absolutely massive. No, it makes total sense. So I love that. So firstly, make sure it's applicable to blockchain. And we keep emphasizing that. Really validate that what you're doing is specifically within the blockchain space. And if it is, or the decentralized space, and at least then you can say, then we start. Then you create a white paper, and the white paper will pretty much outline where the project's going to go. The next step then is to build a community or go to investors. And how many people in your team are there specific people that you bring in to help with that?
The team thing is always, and no matter whether it's crypto or otherwise, the team question is always a key piece, because are you a one-man shop? And there's no problem really with, it's not like, oh, you're not capable of doing it by yourself, but there's a tremendous amount of risk because it's just you, and what if something happens to you, or you just get discouraged, or you some shiny metal object. So really you want to see complementary team members. And not only does it show a little more stability and diversity and power in your team, but hey, could you at least convince a couple of people to kind of go along with jump on your bandwagon there? I mean, if you can't convince even a couple of people to get on, now granted, don't go out there and just grab somebody to be your business partner and split it 50-50 just because you want to show somebody else. That's even more risky. Yeah. But find diversity, focus on what it is that you do best. If you're great at, I don't know, at doing energy in the energy example, whatever it is that you're best at, don't
move away. Yeah.
Yeah, just stay in your lane with there. I'm a big fan of Jim Collins' Good to Great.
Yeah, I love that book.
Fantastic book. And the three key takeaways there, besides the product and the leadership style, was getting the right people on the bus, being your company is that bus. And once you have the right people on the bus and the wrong people off the bus, they're in the right seats. And so you got to really assign the roles that they're the best at.
That's great. I love that because very focused on skill set. Everything is what skills do we require to get to where we need to get to within the next 2 to 3 years. I love that.
And I'll tell you in that, to answer that too, in running Beach Coders, I tell people all the time, I couldn't substitute for the day if the instructor didn't make it.
Yeah.
I don't have the skill set. That's not my role. My role is in the administration and the admin stuff. I do the whole personal, the interaction with the people. And I rely on it. And so the thought that came up for me is like, oh, nobody's going to respect me if I'm not as technical as they are. But it's the other way around. It's like you're honoring these people for their technical skill and saying, I need an expert technician to do this. And I don't need to get bogged down in the details. I don't need to know all this. That's your job. But the good news is that you don't have to know all the stuff I do either. You can just do this thing. And so that's the value there, is to find all these people that complement the skill sets. If you're terrible at graphics, you're going to need graphics and marketing. Get a great one, somebody who plays at what you struggle with.
Yeah. Yeah. And then how do they find the investors? Like in general, I'd love to know, A, how do they find the investors? And B, as you're moving more and more into the investment space yourself, what type of startups do you really like?
Right. Well, when we talk about finding the investors, traditionally, and again, it's very different from the ICO space, because the coin offering and the whole digital crypto space is that you're putting this out into the whole world, and you're getting investors who you'll never meet, right? Yeah. There's people like that. But in the traditional startup space...
Just in the ICO space.
In the
ICO space I'm fascinated with, because the traditional startup space, man, it's a button heads against walls things. Like we've brought so many startups through. I have amazing companies like Shipsy, where she's seen 60 or 70 investors, and and they all love her, and then there's one thing or another thing she has to do, and then you knock your head against the wall further and further and further, and then at some stage in the future, you just get the right one at the right time with the right mentality, and you've listened to enough feedback and you get there, right? But with the ICO space, it is a whole different world, and that's what all of our listeners are so intrigued to hear. Is with some random dude over in Iran or in London or in China. I'm probably picking all the places that we don't want them, but how do you find those people? Because they're not part of the people we see every day.
Well, it's people that are into the space. So who you're really reaching is all those people that are already into that crypto space, and they're scanning for new opportunities. Yeah. And then there's going to be two, and this is where we're at right now in time. As this day, as we speak, and during this podcast, it's shaking out that there's real investors looking to build real value, and they want to participate in something that's real. And then there's other people that are just doing basically the high frequency trader mentality of, I'm going to get in on this. There's even marketing companies that will help you.
Dude, I read it. I saw
you
it.
saw about that. Yeah.
It's crazy.
And that's the intention of, they just want to get it so that they can build up the trading volume. And it's just a money play.
We'll teach you to take on the coin and take it for until the end of the day, and then we'll advise everybody to sell. I thought it was illegal, but obviously not, because it's an advert.
Well, we know it's not ethical. It's a moral hazard. Yeah. Okay. And that's a constant truth. I don't want to be like, Mr. Old School Banker or whatever, but you got it. Like, we've seen this in humanity time and time and time again. You got to have real value and have good intention, and it will. That's what's going to sustain. When you do these things, they're short term. It's only a matter of time. The only reason it's gotten as far as it's gotten so far is because it's so fast on the internet. It's like as fast as a video can go viral, because it's something dumb like a cat chasing its tail or something. Yeah. And it goes viral. These companies go viral because of a concept that we see in the tech space a lot called fear of missing out, right?
Yeah, FOMO.
And FOMO is no different. It's the same human experience and emotional thing that drives the stock market every day.
Yeah.
You know,
It's why the scooter company over here. I mean, my perspective is it's why the scooter company, I should say, that Bird suddenly went from being worth nothing to being worth $400 million within 3 months, right?
Yeah.
It's just because they saw a bunch of scooters around and they couldn't get into the first round. They thought we have to be in, so they gave it a crazy valuation. So I suppose the bigger you build your community, the better that community is, the more real players that you have in there who are respected within the space, the more successful you're going to be with your round.
You know, and what you're pointing to there mechanically, so for advice, is you've got your team, which is a credible team, people that have, you know, just visible skills. Like this guy's your lead technical developer. Well, maybe he's got, you know, some type of, you know, show what his real skill is. He's not just a buddy of yours that kind of codes, like a real guy, people that can be relied on. The next step is the advisory board, right?
Yeah.
So now you have credible people.
So build up your advisory board almost first, right?
Well,
Great
simultaneously.
people.
Yeah, just get people on board that like you, like your story, and they're willing to lend their name to your company's activities. That's a big risk for them because if it's a scammer, they're not going to do it.
Yeah.
But so them showing up, they're public people
Great
and all
point.
that, that's a big, big deal. And then, you know, you could follow that up with getting, you know, you got to promote it, right? So getting some real coverage in, say, TechCrunch or any of these. I mean, if we're in the tech space, I mean, anything that's like legitimate, because the real magazines, or not magazines, but the real publications and online publications, they're not going to risk their reputation on something that's a scam either. So they're going to typically do enough due diligence to at least you know, present it in a editorially neutral way and just kind of present the facts and all that. But this helps to build the story and the momentum, and that's what's going to get, eventually they call it the tipping point, right? Yeah. You're building, and people are kind of sitting by the sidelines going, I wonder what's going to happen with this once they find out about it. And then it starts growing. It's like, well, I better get in now before I miss out.
Yeah, and you build it up. I love that. So really, I think the focus of this interview today, if you want to take away some great takeaways, is number one, just be careful and be real. Make sure that what you're offering is something that you'd be happy if your mom bought it in the future, that she wouldn't get into trouble losing her money.
There you go.
You know, and then also the second part is you build up your influencers. The Kim Kardashians of the makeup and the clothing world are real influencers in the ICO world. And not Kim Kardashian, but the blockchain people in that space, the Kim Kardashians of that space. If they love what you're doing, you've got a winner. If they hate what you're doing, you probably need to fix it. And it's a great test, market validation, to make sure that what you have is something that should go forward. And then as you're going forward, exactly as James says, you know, you build it all simultaneously. And I really love that analogy of seats on the bus. You look at your bus, you look at what skill sets are needed to complete the ICO and take it through. You make sure all the seats are filled before you start driving the bus, because otherwise you will not be able to do this. This is like a friggin' initial public offering. Like, it is a monster ordeal that you're pulling together for 6 months. Your business will crash and die if you don't do it properly. Right. James, mate, any fun? I want to get you back into the conference. I appreciate you coming out. It's awesome to have you here. I love how our journey has kind of come to this place, and how just, I don't know, it's like we're on a wave, right? And then the wave takes us, we start off with intentions, and then the wave takes us to a whole different place, but way cooler.
Yeah.
And we're not off the wave yet. We're still on it, and we're going through.
I love it. And I love coming back here, because every time it's better and better. Like the dojo just keeps growing and growing, and it's totally it's mind-blowing the what's happening here today, and the talent and the level of credibility. I mean, it's very, very impressive, both in the audience and the quality of the audience and the quality of the panels. It's,
the funny thing, thanks, man, I really appreciate it. The funny thing in the audience, there are at least 7 high-level angels in Santa Monica who normally come to our normal investment type things, and are normally the investors who are the ones speaking or judging or investing in the companies we bring through. And now they're sitting in the audience watching the crypto people talk about what's coming in crypto. Like, that's how dynamic the space is. But can you give us, firstly, I'd love if you could share your email with everybody so people can contact you afterwards, and then also maybe just share a final parting piece of advice for everyone on the podcast, just so it sticks with them.
Well, the final parting piece is that and you touched on it, said, would your mother buy it? Is something I learned a long, long time ago, is never create a game that you wouldn't play yourself.
Yeah.
And if you can stick to that and say, you know what, this is good. We did that with beach coders, and I've done that with every business I've ever created. That this is real value. I'm solving a real problem, and I really care about the people involved.
Yeah.
You got to really care about other people. If that's just one thing to take away, is that I'm grateful, and I attribute the success I've had, and hopefully the even more into the future, is that I actually care. Treat everybody you're interacting with, whether it's an investor, a client, a customer, a team member, whatever. Treat them as if you're going to have to spend the rest of your life with them, because you probably will.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. And just your email that people can contact you?
Yeah, I mean, people can reach me at james@beachcoders.com. That's plural, beachcoders.
Okay, you've been listening to James at beachcoders.com. You're here with Brian at Expert Dojo. We're here every week bringing you the greatest expert investors and people who can help guide you so that you can avoid horribleness in startup. I don't know if I'll stick with that tagline. I might move on for the future. But anyway, it's what you should avoid. Okay, we'll see you all again at the same time next week. Thanks, James.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Thanks for joining us. If you know any other entrepreneur equally ambitious as you, then share this podcast by paying it forward to other entrepreneurs who are building your own army. Now, as always, our website, expertdojo.com, is packed with information to help you grow your business, find investment, and train for victory. We also walk our talk and invest in startups every year in our accelerator here in Silicon Beach. You can always reach out to me at brian@expertdojo.com, and I look forward to being back here again at our regular time next Tuesday, 10 a.m. with another of the world's top investors, helping you win the war against startup failure.